Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for November 2022. So on November 8th, we have our full moon total lunar eclipse taking place at 6 degrees in Taurus energy. So this is essentially going to close the door on the eclipse seasons for 2022, and it is opening up the third and final chapter to this Taurus and Scorpio spiritual life lesson that we jumped into in the fall of 2021. Of course, we had a peak climax in the story line that we are kind of living out here in the Taurus and Scorpio energy in the spring of 2022. And this particular full moon total lunar eclipse is definitely going to rattle us and shake us up and wake us up in all the right ways and set us on the path in the direction that we need to be walking in order to align with our soul's mission and our soul's purpose. So, if you haven't downloaded your moon guide, I'm going to recommend you do that, especially where this is eclipse energy. This is a game changer. It is absolutely advisable to do the shadow work needed to do the moon guide rituals and activities in order to get you aligned with what it is that we're currently experiencing in the cosmos, as this is, again, setting us up to see how our lives are dramatically going to change over the next 6 months. So let's break it down. First of all, what do we got to know about it? It's a full moon. What does that mean? Well, there's a full illumination of something that was once hidden from our realm of knowing. This is also an ending point, a completion point, a releasing point. And we're in Scorpio season, which is all about death, endings, and closures in order for there to be a renewal, a resurrection, and a rebirth. That's what transformation is all about. This is a total lunar eclipse, which means that we are in alignment with the north and south nodes of the moon. The south node is our past. It's where it is that we're coming from. And in the Scorpio energy, we're coming from a path of pain and trauma and suffering and damage and destruction. Why? Because that is the path of empowerment. That's how we learn. That's how we boss up. And it's how we totally transform that pain into power and that darkness into light. The North Node in Taurus energy is asking us what it is that we are going to build in its place. What do we want to bring to life? What do we want to create? Taurus energy is about creation, while Scorpio energy is about destruction. Venus rules over this Taurus energy, and Venus is currently sitting in its opposing energy in Scorpio. If you download the moon guide, we go through all of the different aspects that Venus is actually going to be making under this full moon event, which is basically the death and destruction of her feminine energy, of our self-confidence, our self-esteem, our worth, of our routines, of our relationships, of our resources, and how it is that she is turning her death and destruction story into something beautiful, into a rebirth, into a creation story where she comes out empowered. Now, Venus plays a major role in this particular moon event. We basically have a team Taurus versus team Scorpio energy built up here. We have stelliums, more than 3 planets in each energy. Of course, we have the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the South Node in Scorpio energy sitting across from the Moon, the North Node, and Uranus in the Taurus energy. This is a battle royale, if you will. It's creating a T-square, which is a lot of tension, a lot of conflict in order to invoke change. And we find the energy outlet through Mr. Saturn, the Lord of Karma, asking us to boss up to new karmic chapters, new soul contracts, new roles and responsibilities. It is quite a time. Now, when you move through the elemental energy profile of this particular moon event, we are dominant in water. That's emotion, that's intuition, that is a soul level healing and transformation. And not far behind it, we are backed in earth. Earth is our physical realm, the physical changes that need to be made in our daily lives, our physical routines, our relationships, our bodies, our money matters, our goals, our vision. It is literally the physical landscape that is changing due to the inner alchemization of self that we're all going through, the death and the rebirth of who it is that we are, leaving behind who it is that we had to be in our survival story in order to embody the qualities and characteristics of the thriver story that we're now about to move into. Now, granted, there's a lot of fixed energy in this particular moon event, and fixed energy does not like change. And that's why the change has to come at us and be totally shocking and totally unexpected and totally surprising in order to shake up our foundations. Now, when we talk about foundations, we talk about earth energy. And when we talk about shaking up our inner realm, we talk about our emotions and our intuition, our dreams, which is the Scorpio energy. And with these two kind of teams battling it out for balance, because that's what we're looking to do, this is going to be I'm going to say, foundational shakeup like you'd never felt before. It may feel like everything is falling apart, everything is crumbling around you. It is not. It is just being rearranged and restructured in a way that is going to put you on a path that is more aligned with your soul's mission and your soul's purpose. I want to talk about some of the highlights, the topics and themes that we can expect around this particular eclipse energy. First of all, in the 3D realm of this reality, it's very interesting that it's happening around midterm elections in the America. In the USA, if you remember, USA is currently going through its Pluto return. Around 248 years, the civilization dies. And that's exactly what the US is currently going through. And Pluto, the great transformer himself, likes to bring a certain amount of damage and destruction in order for there to be a clean slate to build upon. And Pluto rules over Scorpio season that we're currently at, which means that there is a true transformation going on. And it would not surprise me in the least if we are going to see a total shift in power, because, of course, Uranus is conjunct with this moon and the North Node, which means that we have a brand new path that we need to get on, which means that we have to leave the old power struggles and structures behind. We might actually be surprised by the results coming out of this particular election. And we are definitely going to have a shift in values, because there are many of us now that are not afraid to stand up and not afraid to speak our truth, not afraid to speak about what it is that we believe in. You can thank Mercury being in Scorpio for that. And because of that, we are going to see a total shift in power. Now, that is super interesting. We also have to keep in mind that Taurus rules over money, rules over earth, banking, economy. And the fact that the US is going through this political shift and going through this death and rebirth situation, there's going to be a lot of, I'm going to say, changes to the earth itself. So farming, agriculture, we've seen that coming a mile away, to the banking, to the economy, which is already in a huge amount of distress. And because Mars is actually retrograde in Gemini at this point, there's a lot of anger and frustration that is peaking out of the collective, especially where the political system is concerned, because you're going to be hearing a lot of chatter, whether it's true or not, that remains to be seen. Gemini energy is chatter and communications and gossip, circling around the highly probable situation of hijacked systems, hijacked elections. Now, we're seeing this be triggered in other areas of the world, Brazil in particular right now, where they are totally taking their power back and standing up for what they believe in and speaking out that they will not let a horrible dictator lead them into what is best for their country. And I would say that the USA is not very far behind in that particular movement as well. So that's what we can kind of expect on the greater, grander scale of things. But individually, you got to take a look at where this Scorpio energy and this Taurus energy is alive and well in your chart. And if you don't know how to do that, you can look up the video that I have on my What the Fact playlist on moon events and how to identify where certain events are taking place in your chart. And you can also look up, I put a new episode out there. It was an exclusive content for my Patreon subscribers prior to the last eclipse energy that we had, but I'm making that public here on YouTube. And it is about the eclipse energies and the nodes of the moon and where to find that in your chart and what that means to you. But basically, in everybody's chart, we have Taurus energy showing us the new that we need to be moving into, the new systems that need to be built, the new foundations that need to be built, the new elements, topics, and themes in our lives that need to be brought and birthed and created into our realm. Why? Because there's been so much damage and destruction, elements that are out of our control that have been put into play, divinely scripted into our lives to create such a unstable situation for us to be moving through that illuminates for us where it is that we need safety and security and stability the most. That's very much the Scorpio vibes. What needs to die? What needs to end? What do we have to close the door on in order to revive, resurrect, rejuvenate ourselves, renew ourselves, level up, and what we're going to create out of the bad that we've been dealt? Very much the Taurus and Scorpio topics and themes. Again, we jumped into the spiritual life lesson back in the fall of 2021, and we will be riding this beautiful black horse all the way into 2023. We will have the nodes of the moon shift into the Aries and Libra energy in 2023, kind of meshing the spiritual lessons with the Taurus and Scorpio energy, which is going to be just a whole different ball game that I'll talk about in the 2023 forecast that is coming out here very shortly. But basically, our values are changing. What is important to us is changing. Who we are is changing. Our realities are changing. The perspectives are changing. And many of us have to realize that we're holding on to things that we've outgrown, that we've completed, that we have no connection with anymore, and that we're not aligned to anymore. And in order for us to move on, we have to make peace with it. We have to cut the cord with it. So this particular full moon event is going to jack up your feels, definitely. It's going to trigger some kind of emergency, urgency, impulse for you to take action and make a major change. Newsflash, you're not going to be able to act on it. You're going to want to act on it, but you're not going to be able to. We're blocked from taking action right now. The universe will sort us out, so don't worry about it. We need to sit with what it is that we want to take action on instead of actually taking action on it. When we talk about action, we talk about Mars. Mars is retrograde in Gemini. He has to think very carefully, strategically, logically, practically, before he can go ahead and take any action. And Mars, being the ruler, well, co-ruler technically, of Scorpio season, in this full moon total lunar eclipse in Taurus, that Venus, the feminine divine energy, rules over. This is a rebalancing of our energy, of our ideas. Mars would normally prefer to take action, make a move, and deal with the consequences later. We can't do that when Mars is retrograde. We have to refine our ideas, our thoughts, our goals, our passions, our desires. Then we have to logically and practically sit down and come up with a strategy on how it is that we're going to take action and make these things come to life. But the urgency, the impulse is definitely going to be alive and well under this full moon, but we cannot act on it. Let me just warn you. If you go ahead and you try to put forth an action and you try to aggress yourself and you try to force something to happen, you will not only have it backfire, you will create a whole lot of mess that you're going to have to clean up before you can get started on this new path that the eclipse energy will have us on and walking mid-November. That is your warning. So this full moon is kind of meant to show us where it is that we don't feel stable so that we can create stability. It's showing us what has been damaged, what has been destroyed, what has been broken down in order for us to rebuild and what we're going to rebuild in its place. The whole point is that we have to strike a balance between the sun and the moon in Taurus and Scorpio energy. This is my personal wants, needs, and desires versus the wants, needs, and desires of everybody else, and where we can find a happy medium between the two. This is my personal values, what I think is important versus what everybody else is valuing and thinking is important. We have an individual plan. We have an individual path, but that plan and that path is closely intertwined with the path and with the plan of the greater, grander collective. And this is about tapping into our skills and our talents, our individual skills and talents, and how we can bring that forth and help the greater, grander collective achieve our goals, which should be unity, consciousness, and oneness. And we have to take a good look at our money, our resources, and what it is that I have and what it is that can be shared with me from the rest of the world, and versus what I have to share with the rest of the world. This is striking a balance. So we need to tune in to what has changed inside of us. We have to tune in to what has changed in our realms. We have to see where new values, new important matters are coming to our attention. We have to speak our truth. We have a lot of aspects taking place under this full moon event that is going to help that cause. Again, another beautiful reason to download your moon guide and to follow along and to dissect these particular aspects and see what it's triggering within you. A T-square is never something to kind of shy away from. We have to kind of understand that Uranus and Saturn have been at each other's throat for the last 18 months, squaring each other. Saturn is about karma and structures and foundations and where it is that we feel restricted and blocked and oppressed, while Uranian energy is about the vision, about independence and freedom and sovereignty, about where it is that we have to overcome the struggles that we're being blocked with by Saturn's energy in order to make a choice to direct our energy and attention into what is going to free us and liberate us from some of the restrictions that are currently blocking us from reaching our dreams, our vision, our goals. So when we talk about the whole Uranus and Saturn square, this is the last time that they're going to be in a square. Thank goodness, ending what has been a very tough back and forth, up and down life lesson for the last 18 months. Essentially, this has been about the Saturn energy breaking down the systems, the structures, the places of authority, while Uranus energy triggers us to rebel, to fight for our independence, our freedom, in order to break free from the, let's call it, capitalistic framework of slavery that we've all found ourselves in. And, you know, the quote unquote elites, which I hesitate to even call them that because they're pawn scum. But their time is up. Their time is over, and we are essentially dethroning them. We're in the process of doing that. And in the process of doing that, we're taking our power back. And we as a collective need to unify and unite in order to free the people and give the people their power. So we got that going on. That's going to be a major topic and theme, but we really just have to understand that there is a certain tension, a certain conflict that is being triggered within us to see where it is that there's a bright light shining on what it is that we have to let go of, what has to end, what we have to close the door on in order for that light to shine on the space that it will create for us to build something new. And we are gaining momentum. We are gaining courage. We are gaining bravery in order to boss up and actually take on the roles and responsibilities that are being kind of bestowed upon us by our soul contracts and our karmic lessons. And it doesn't feel good. We have the South Node very active in the Scorpio energy, teamed up with the Sun and Mercury and Venus, that's trying very hard to clear out our old karma and to close the old karmic contracts in order for the Sun. Well, I'm going to say the sun is shining a bright light on the transformation that we have to make, but the moon is like emotionally fine-tuning us with that Uranian energy next to the North Node in order to boss up to the new soul contracts and karmic lessons that we're about to jump into and initiate. So there's a lot going on, and we have to kind of just have the understanding that it takes 6 months in order for this eclipse energy to come to its fullest manifestation. So, we're definitely seeing these triggers, these activation points be kind of brought to life under the full moon in Taurus. But at the same time, we have another 6 months to see how all of this is going to be unpacked and how this is going to unfold. I guess the most important thing that we have to focus on here is just finding a safe and secure ground for us to hold on to while the earth under our feet is being shook up, in order to create situations where we are more willing to make changes and to be open-minded to the changes and transformations that need to be made. No change is ever welcomed when you're sitting in your comfort zone. So sometimes we need to have things kind of shook up and thrown in our face and just absolutely destroyed, because that means that we're more open and vulnerable to what it is that we have to change and transform in our life in order to rebuild and find that safety, security, and stability in our lives once again. So that is the full moon in a nutshell. I hope that it is kind to you. I hope that you're kind to yourself as you move through this energy. Again, I'm really going to recommend that you download the new moon partial solar eclipse in Scorpio moon guide if you haven't done that work already. We had that, of course, October 25th. It is kind of like a full story that you need to kind of realize. These are puzzle pieces that are fitting together to reveal the greater, grander picture. And of course, I absolutely recommend that you dive into the moon guide for this particular moon event and really get down to the nitty-gritty on where this particular transformation is taking place for you in your life. So I hope you have a beautiful full moon, and I'm sending you nothing but love.